Come on, YouTube. Webinar is streaming live on YouTube. Oh, cool. Well, the blue bar, oh, there we go. I was going to say the blue bar hasn't fully
Come
gone
on,
across.
YouTube.
There we are. We are live on YouTube. And we are live in the chat. Okay, right, let's get started then. I can't wait for this conversation. Good as a schoolgirl.
Are you recording?
Oh, thank you.
I have that problem all the time. There you go. Great.
That would have been a classic.
Yes, I know. Now you can relax.
Now I can relax. Okay. All right then. So hello and welcome to season 11 of the Mundane to Magical online summit series. My name is Louise Matson, and as always, I am truly blessed to be your host. This season seems different from other seasons for some reason, more powerful in some ways. And maybe that's because of the eclipse energy that has just shifted everything to the next level. And I'm sure today's call will be no exception, as I am delighted to welcome back a very much loved returning featured speaker, the amazing Peter Tong. Peter is a master teacher and thought leader who weaves astrology and the gene keys together, and today a little bit of human design as well, to unlock the energetic bigger picture for us all on our collective and individual levels. And I personally consider Peter to be a master wisdom keeper and ambassador for the Gene Keys modality, with an amazing gift of being able to really ground and share this high esoteric wisdom of the Gene Keys into the physical in a really, truly easy to understand way to assist us all on our journeys of spiritual evolution. Now, the topic for today's conversation is the shift of ages, and I can certainly feel the energy of this shift in motion. And Peter has noted that since January this year, there have been a series of planetary alignments in certain gene keys that have placed us in the perfect position for our own individual, collective, and planetary ascension. So on this call, Peter's going to explain these magnificent unfoldments and the importance of the planetary transits this year, including the eclipse season that we've just experienced, and the intricate weaving of our consciousness with Mother Earth and the elementals. The power of the recent eclipse season as the key to all of our awakening and the shift of ages in our fifth dimensional existence. As usual, Peter will be taking live questions around the topics that we're going to be discussing. And if we have time, some of the Gene Keys questions. But I highly recommend that you take Peter up on his special offer, which is a reduced price one-to-one session for him to go deeply into your profiles. The link to get your free profile can be found on the free gifts page. So please check that out if you haven't already got your profile. But this conversation is going to go more into the energies that we're experiencing today. So without further ado, let's get started. I wish you a very warm welcome back, Peter. It's a true blessing to have you join us again on the show.
Well, thank you. What a lovely introduction that was. Beautiful. Perfect. You don't need me on the show, Lou. You can do it.
I don't hold all the wisdom.
Great. Great.
So I know we were chatting just slightly before we went live, and you were saying you just wanted to give a brief introduction to the Gene Keys, and then really the main focus is to dive into, just what's going on with the amazing planetary energies and what it all means for us moving forward. So I shall let you introduce the Gene Keys to those people who may not have an understanding or an awareness of those, and then we'll dive straight in.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I've been blessed by meeting and spending time with Richard Rudd, who is the founder of the Gene Key Process. He had a 3-day altered state experience where he was shown how the Gene Key transmission fitted precisely with the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching, and the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching are a reflection of the 64 gene codes in our DNA. So what the Gene Keys process does is helps us unravel all the blockages that are in our DNA to prevent us from fully realizing our true divine self. So the Gene Key process takes us on a journey through 11 gene keys, which are your fundamentally important gene keys in your profile from the moment of your birth to show you what you need to work with to set yourself free from those so-called shadow frequencies. There are 3 frequency levels: shadow, gift, and siddhi. The shadows are all the things that we don't really want to deal with, the things that keep triggering us in our lives. And if we avoid them, they're going to trip us up at some point in the future. So we may as well deal with them now. Those are the shadows. The gifts are the energies that we actually want to be living in day to day. And then you live a life of contentment and happiness and fulfillment. And then if you're really blessed, the so-called siddhis will descend upon you, which is this God consciousness that will just show up. And you've had one of those experiences yourself, Lou, which you just mentioned. And you can't make that happen. It happens to you when you've reached a certain level of consciousness and readiness. And then you have these moments of bliss and breakthrough and joy and harmony and peace. And there are usually only little glimpses to begin with. And if you start trying to work them out, they go away. So the key thing is just to allow yourself to be saturated by those feelings, and then more of them will show up. So it's a beautiful, very, very safe, structured process, and that's why I work with it. It's become phenomenal for me, the synchronicities that are showing up in people's profiles and the timing when we're having the sessions to really help them clear out any final residues of the old system, to set them free to step into this new earth, which is now upon us. So 64 gene keys, of which you have 11 specifically that you are dealing with in your life. And the precision blows me away. Or every single session I have is something that's showing in their profile that actually happened in their lives. It's quite remarkable. And it is an energetic transmission. So it's not just a chat. Energetic work is being done through them, as it will during this session today. People will have moments of awareness and awakening, and even feelings inside of some sort of shift as a result of this discussion. So I'm absolutely honored and blessed to be part of the Gene Key transmission, and I am an ambassador on behalf of the Gene Keys in supporting the whole process, which I'm very, very happy and honored to do. So that's a very brief introduction, but I think that's all I need to do at this point. And I will include some Gene Keys in the discussion, and people don't need to understand the Gene Keys particularly, because I will explain what they represent as we go through this process.
Absolutely. Okay. Right. So there have been some amazing planetary transits this year alone, and I'm sure that there are many, many more to come as well. So I don't know where you want to start. And whether
Let's
you want
start at
to
let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning. So what I want to do is review the last 3 months. So from January the 20th to April the 20th, specifically, because from my perspective, this is the shift of the ages and the anchoring in of the new energies. But it's going to be really helpful for people to review this last 3 months. We're in Mercury retrograde right now. So to review the last 3 months, to see what's happened in your life during this time and why things happened when they did, and how it was all part of the shift that we need to go through. All of us, we all need to go through this shift. So I'm going back to January the 20th, where there was this amazing event that took place. And it began with Pluto being in Capricorn since 2008. And Capricorn is the old structures, the old way. And Pluto is the transformer. And if you remember, back in 2008 is when we had the first crash in the American housing market. Yes. So since then, Pluto has been making its way through Capricorn through till January the 20th. So it's been stirring everything up, transforming the old patriarchal way of doing things in every single way. Then on that date, it was at 29 degrees 58 minutes of Capricorn. It couldn't be any later. And then the sun came into a precise conjunction with it. Yeah. So the sun illuminated. Pluto is of the underworld. It doesn't like to be seen. So the sun said, come on, Pluto, you're coming out into the light today to reveal all that we need to see. Then the very next day, they moved together into Aquarius. So this was one, not the only one, but one of the birthing points of the new age of Aquarius, when Pluto shifted out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. So the old energy being completely transformed and now shifting into the new energy. And Pluto in Aquarius is all about power to the people. So you've got a little important message from Jenny there you may want to look at.
Yeah, it says, I have no sound. There's no icon to turn on sound. Everybody else, can everybody else hear us? Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up or a yes? Yeah, yeah, great. Okay, fabulous. I think it must be an issue for you at your end, Jenny. I don't think there's anything that I can do about it. There might be a mute button or something, but it might be your device as well. But there will be a replay if you are having issues with sound. But thankfully, we seem to be okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was that event that took place. Now, Pluto is very slow moving. And what happens with me is, Louise, I get the information at the last minute. So I don't get much warning. And so as this unfolded, I began to realize that what was going to happen was Pluto is so slow moving, it was staying in the gate that enters into Aquarius, which is the 60th gene key. And the 60th gene key shadow is all about limitation and restrictions. And it's been there for several years. So you think about the last 4 years and all the restrictions and limitations the governments have placed upon us, the medical system, all of that stuff preventing us from being true to ourselves. So this was the shift of the ages. Okay, so now then, Pluto's so slow moving, it stayed in that gateway in the 60th gene key. And then what happened was there was a precession, and that precession included all the personal planets. So first of all, Mercury came into that gateway, then the moon, then Venus, then Mars. And it felt to me like Pluto was holding that gate wide open for them to move through to transform their own energies. Mercury about our thoughts and our thinking, our beliefs, the moon about our feelings, Venus about our relationships and our money, and Mars about how we're going to act in the world. So these were like transformational moments moving through the 60th gene key. And so that was my realization that all of the aspects of us were going to be leading us through this transformative process, leading us into then the annular lunar eclipse on March 25th. And that lunar eclipse took place in the Aries Libra axis. But before that took place, we'd moved through all the Pisces gene keys. And the Pisces gene keys include some of the most powerful ones. The 22nd, which is all about human suffering, and the 55th, which is the gene key of the age of Aquarius and stepping out of the old Piscean age. And the dark side of Pisces was the suppression of the feminine. So this was letting go of all the victimhood that the feminine has experienced over the last 2,000 years in the age of Pisces. All of that was now coming up to be cleared. So now we step out of Pisces into Aries, which is the new beginning, and then immediately we have this lunar eclipse. So now that lunar eclipse is the Aries Libra axis. And what that's about is Aries is I'm now starting out on a brand new journey. I am the fool in the tarot, and I've got to go on my own mission. So this is about my needs. What do I need for my life to function well? But Libra is about the needs of the other. So how do I find this balance in my life, harmony and balance, Libra, between my own needs and the needs of the other people in my life? And that's what that eclipse was about. So that could lead to some real challenging struggle. There'll be some people in our lives that we're no longer going to associate with because they're not coming on the journey with us. Some of those are family members, and it's really tough. How do we navigate through that situation? So that's what that lunar eclipse was all about. And it was very powerful and very intense. But it was also about letting go of what needs to be released. Okay? So now then, what I'd like you to do is to pull up the the first of the diagrams that I sent to you, the cross of planning. This was information that came to me on the first day that Mercury went retrograde, on April Fool's Day, April the 1st. And this information was absolutely and totally profound. And what our audience need to know is that what is taking place now is a predestined event. This is unstoppable. It is inevitable. And this comes from human design. So the gene keys focuses on every gene key gets illuminated by the sun for about 5 days every year. And so it goes around that circle, that whole circle you can see there, all the gene keys on the outside, the sun moves around once each year. But in human design, they also focus on what they call global cycles. And those global cycles last for about 400 years. And you'll see here it says the cross of planning from 1615 to 2027. So we are coming to the end of this cross of planning. And you'll see on the inner circle, there are 8 gene keys. The 9 at the top, the 16 at the bottom, the 37 on the left, and the 40 on the right. That's the cross of planning. And what this means is this set of 8 gene keys was responsible for this age. And the 37 and the 40 is about the tribe and community. And this cross of planning means that we agreed as a civilization, as a humanity, to buy into the belief that the tribe would keep us safe and secure, and that we would allow the government and the medical system and the financial system to hold sway over us because they were going to bring us safety and security, which was required in the 1600s. Yeah. But now things have changed, and it's rather like the fall of the empires, the fall of the Roman Empire, the fall of the British Empire. This is the fall of this age. So then, drawing your attention to the 42nd gene key, which is down in the bottom left corner, the southwest corner. Yeah. Richard Rudd says in his conversations and interviews, the 42nd gene key heralds the end of an age. Right. It's when everything comes to completion. And there it is in this cross. Now, this cross is not the cross of planning. It's the cross between the 42, 32, 61, and 62. And that cross is called the cross of Maya, M-A-Y-A, the illusion. So all of this belief in that system was an illusion. Right. And the 61 you'll see circled in orange, because that is the most important gene key in this journey into the future, because the 61, you'll see this, well, you won't see, it doesn't say so, but the shadow of the 61 is psychosis. So we have been trapped in what they call mass formation psychosis, mind control, as we've come to the end of this age. So the 61 really represents our inner truth. So what we're now seeing on the planet, Lou, is this massive divide between those people who are going to stick to this belief system, that the system is supporting us and helping us and holding us safe, which it isn't, it's an illusion. That's one group of people. And then the other group of people are the people who get the shift that's required, which is our own inner truth. Yeah. So what's going to happen is we're going to step away from this old belief system through the 42nd, bringing it to an end. Then we're going to step into our own inner truth, our own inner guidance, our true consciousness. Yeah. And then once we've done that, we will come back to the group in group consciousness. But we have to do the journey ourselves first. We've got to do that deep inner journey.
Absolutely.
And so, no,
sorry. No, I was going to say, Spirit said a long time ago, we're heading for unity consciousness, but we're not there yet. And actually, the paradoxical thing is that we have to go through a process of realizing individualization before we can go into unity consciousness. So that's basically what you're showing here as well.
Absolutely, precisely. And that's what's neat about this, because this is inevitable. and we may get that guidance, but now we know it's absolutely true. Now, what's neat about this, Lou, and the timing that we're doing this, and I'm finding a lot of the work I'm doing now is divinely guided synchronistically by time. So the 42nd gene key completed on Sunday this week. So for 5 days, it was illuminated. So on Sunday, we were on the 42 line 6 in the I Ching, and the 42 is about detaching from the drama. And Richard Rudd talks about all the Shakespearean plays and all the tragedy and the horrible things and the humor and the silliness. It's all part of life. So now we detach from the drama of life and we start celebrating, which is the city of that gene key. So now we're being asked to celebrate everything that happens in our life because it's supposed to happen to lead us into this new earth energy. So now, rather than getting upset by what happens, we detach from the drama and we go in within. And now we start thinking, okay, what was the lesson in this for me? Absolutely. So what we did a ceremony. We had a little group meeting on Sunday, and we did a ceremony whereby I invited people to write down the words that there were their blessings for all that's happened in their life so far, the deepest struggles and challenges. What was the blessing in that? And I wrote those words down, and then we did a little fire ceremony, and we burned those blessings in the fire to set them free and set ourselves free from them. And so then you step into the other cross, which is the other diagram. If you want to pull that up, Lou.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really exciting.
There we go. Oh, no, same
there you
one.
are.
Is that
so now? No, that's the right one.
Okay.
So this is now the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And you'll see now it says from 2027 to 2438. So this is that 400-year cycle that we're now entering.
Wow.
And Richard Rudd, in his book, where he talks about the gene keys, talks about the year 2027. He talks about 3 years of great significance. 1987, harmonic convergence, 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, and 2027. And he said in 2027 is when we will come into rhythmic resonance, into the harmony of the spheres. And I was thinking to myself when I read that, I think it's going to happen before then.
Yeah.
Right. So what he was talking about, if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says the 25 inside the diagram is the 55.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what he's saying is when we hit the 55 line 6 in February 2027 is when we will have fully moved into the new earth energies, the age of Aquarius.
Right. Okay.
And so that's in the year 2027. However, this is what I learned from this diagram and the total solar eclipse. So if you imagine the outer circle is fixed. So those 10, 1, 46, 7, 15, 2, 25, 13, they hold space the whole time.
Yeah.
But then the inner ones, they're like cogs in a wheel. They shift around. And so they get to a new position after these 400 odd years. So this is the new plan for the next 400 years. And we know it ends up in the 55 as the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
What I didn't know until April the 1st was this magical thing. And that was the total solar eclipse had this absolutely precise alignment, which had the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, the North Node of the Moon, which is our future destiny, and Chiron, the wounded healer. And they were all absolutely in a line at 19 degrees of Aries. Which gene key is 19 degrees of Aries? The 51. Right down in the southwest corner, where we had the 42 has transformed into the 51.
Yeah.
Now, what does the 51 represent? Deep traumatic shock. So all the shocks that we've experienced in our lives and in the world at large are wrapped up in this 51 shadow. And what it does, it gets us to armor ourselves off, to protect ourselves from having any future shocks.
Mm.
And this cross, the 51, 57, 54, and 53, are called the cross of penetration. So what we're being asked to do is to dissolve that armor plating
Mm.
and allow ourselves to become deeply vulnerable so spirit can enter at a deeper level. And that takes some courage.
It
And
does.
that's what we're being asked to do. And so this
Yeah.
51 is an initiator. It starts things off. It's a brand new journey. And it's the journey of awakening. That's the city of this gene key. So when I found this out, I couldn't believe it. Like, this is the beginning of the awakening for this 3 year or less than 3 year period. So
Wow.
it started on the total solar eclipse. The new Earth energy got anchored in on that total solar eclipse.
Oh, wow.
So when you think about the solar eclipse, what happens in that moment is when the moon completely blots the sun out. It's a
Mm.
reset moment. So
Yeah.
the old sun dies, literally, it's eclipsed, it's gone.
Mm.
And then the moment it comes back, there's this brilliant solar flash of light, and it comes back in a higher expression of itself.
Mm.
And as you said on our chat before we started, you've become aware of a
Yeah.
different sun since it came back.
Yeah, definitely. It's much whiter, and so much brighter as well. And not just in terms of light, but in frequency. It's completely different.
That's right.
Um, yeah, incredible.
So this is a galactic moment. So
Hmm.
whatever you believe about the great central sun or whatever the sun is beyond the sun, that energy in that moment when the sun came back, it came back with that extra piece from beyond. It's galactic in nature. And now that energy is coming into us and grounding into Mother Earth.
Mm.
And this is why some of us are feeling discombobulated. Like I'm like the nutty professor at times. Like, I can't find things, I drop things. What was I doing a minute ago and I can't remember? At one extreme end, and then the other extreme end, I'm having all these amazing synchronistic events occurring.
Mm.
So we've got to be really kind and generous with ourselves under these conditions. But
Mm.
we've also got to get fully grounded in our bodies when we're going to do anything like driving.
Yeah.
We've got to be and aware of other people on the road, because there's some crazy stuff happening out there. So
Yeah.
we've got to be really fully present in our bodies during this time. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So now the 51 then is the initiation into this new age where we let go of the plate armor. We allow ourselves to be penetrated by spirit. When
Mm.
we do that, the 57 opposite in the top northeast position is the gene key of our intuitive knowing. And it is the clarity of our intuition. So when we let go of the old energies and when we let go of the armor plate, our intuition is going to get much stronger. And this
Absolutely.
is about the return of the feminine. And
Mm.
it's about trusting that intuitive knowing. And then I'm going to talk about the 37 and 34 and 20, because the 34 at the very top is about the Kundalini energy, rising energy. It's a very deep, physically powerful energy, but that
Mm.
can also push us up and out of body.
Yeah.
So the 20 at the bottom is the energy of presence. So this is saying to us, we've got to be present in time and space.
Mm.
So being aware of whenever our mind gets scattered, superficial, and being fully grounded in our body. And the way to do that is out in nature without any shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now I'm coming to the actual cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is the 34, 20, 59, and 55. And the cross of the sleeping phoenix, in my belief system, is that every so often in history, the phoenix wakes up,
Mm.
takes a look at what's happening in the world. Is it time to destroy the old world? So
Mm.
the phoenix takes everything into the ashes.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening right now. Everything is dissolving away to create the new world. And
Yeah.
then the phoenix will rise from the ashes.
Mm.
And it's interesting that in the 59th gene key, which is the programming partner of the 55, Richard Rudd talks about the return of Quetzalcoatl.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Quetzalcoatl is the South American god, half serpent, half eagle.
Mm.
So it's about shedding the snake skins, which is what we're doing through this time, but we are not the skins. We are the snake inside the skins, which is now shedding those skins so it can fly and become the eagle.
Mm.
And that's a really neat moment for me to talk about another magnificent thing that's happened in our world. And that is with this wonderful dowser in England called Rory Duff. Do you know Rory, Lou?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So he's been doing this wonderful dowsing across the planet to show where ley lines cross, major ley lines, where they form this node point.
Mm.
And two of those node points are where the two great circles cross, the plumed serpent and the rainbow serpent. And they only cross in two places, in Bali and in Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. And really interesting, Oracle Girl, who I follow closely, is doing her April immersion down in the Cusco Valley right now. So she's on a node point down there. Well, we had a podcast with Rory. We interviewed him. And after we'd finished, he said he would find our node point here in Victoria, where the two ley lines cross, which he did. So since the spring equinox, we had our first gathering on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, deliberately to connect with the elemental energies on our node. And to our absolute amazement, 40 people showed up. So we did this first group meditation on that node point. And what Rory says is when you do those meditations on those node points, you actually create the Grail cup. The Grail is not a physical artifact.
No.
It's actually a sacred geometrical pattern from which you can source once it's established. So these node points that happen all over the planet, Rory's got a website called the Sacred Network, where he indicates and more node points appearing all over the planet where people can go to meditate. And so now then that brings me into the actual total solar eclipse, because another person, Dr. Alex Ling, was talking about doing a hum on that total solar eclipse with middle C. So not only were there people meditating on these nodes all over the planet, but people were humming.
Yeah.
And we were on our node, and Zia, who I work closely with, has got a crystal ball C tuning. So she played the crystal ball while we were on that node for the 4.5 minutes while it lasted.
Wow.
Now, as I said earlier, my daughter Angela is in Mazatlan, Mexico right now, where that total solar eclipse came on land. It was quite remarkable that she ended up there without knowing that, and then found out later on that this was what was happening. And she said it was an absolutely profound moment. First of all the people there went into a really reverent space. It went really quiet. The birds stopped flying. It was absolute stillness.
Wow.
Then it went really cold. One of the things that happens in a total solar eclipse, there's no sunlight.
It does.
And then she saw this incredible seed of light as the first glimpse of the sun came back. And then this massive solar flash, which is what you're talking about, Lou, of this new sun returning in that moment.
Yeah.
And this is then the birthing of this age of Aquarius through this 55th gene key, which is this journey now until 2027. And that 55th gene key then is what's now becoming the central focus. And the shadow of the 55 is victimhood. So now it becomes really important for all of us to no longer play the role of the victim. And we know whenever we're blaming, complaining, or comparing. We all do it. We're all human. So we just catch ourselves in those moments. And we pause and we breathe and we take full responsibility for whatever we were complaining about. Because this freedom, which is the city of that gene key, is an internal freedom. It doesn't matter what's happening in the outer world. We set ourselves free from the inside out. And the outer world is self-imploding anyway. So we don't need to have any anxiety or worry about it. It is dissolving away. The Phoenix is guaranteeing that on our behalf. So what we've got to do is hold to the highest frequency that we can. Which brings me into the next major event, which is yet to come, which is on Saturday this week. And the evolutionary astrologers are saying this is the most significant astrological event this year. Well, we've already had a ton, and now this is the next one. And this is a a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction.
Yeah.
It's taking place at 21 degrees of Taurus. And this is a 14-year cycle. So again, it'd be really good for our viewers to check back to January 2011. And again, under Mercury retrograde, review this 14-year period, because it's been bringing this old age to an end. So whatever's happened over this 14 years has been leading us into this new energy coming up this week. And so then we've got another 14-year period to look forward to, with Uranus and Jupiter setting this impulse on Saturday. It's already starting today, actually, but the precise conjunction is Saturday. Now, what's that about? Well, Uranus is all about our personal freedom that comes through sudden and unexpected change. And we can't avoid it. It's bound to happen. So if you're not on your journey, you're going to get a whack across the head to put you on it. If you're paying attention to it.
I was just thinking that degree is bang opposite my ascendant. So and I wondered why. I wondered why it's because of things that have happened with one of the speakers. I was going to have a call on the Saturday, but she's had to reschedule. So that day is free. And I was like, okay, it's an opportunity for people to catch replays. But actually, I think it's because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that Uranus is what's literally forcing us into our freedom if we're not ready to accept it. So let's accept it so we don't have to go through any trauma. Right? We don't want any more trauma.
Yeah.
So then Jupiter is the expansive energy. It's the optimistic. It's the bright, open space for us to move into. And so this is another situation, and you can begin to see that this whole period since January has been about endings and beginnings. And there's a whole series of them. And so then we've got another one on the 23rd, when we have full moon in Scorpio, and it's in the 28th gene key. The 28th gene key is the gene key of Halloween. So this is when all the ghosties and ghoulies come out, all forming one major demonic being. That's the deepest fear we have to face in our life. This full moon is saying, now let's check in with what is my deepest fear.
Yeah.
Because we need to let go of that. And its programming partner is the 27, where the sun will be, which is about self-nurture. It's about really, really looking after ourselves. It's about nurturing ourselves in terms of time, sleep, food, enjoying life. We're still here to enjoy the sensuous nature of life. And it is happening in Taurus, this energy. So this is about the sacred feminine and the sacred earth. So just to recap everything then, just think about this. The sun is now illuminating us in a higher expression of who we really are, but it's also illuminating the earth. And one of the big shifts that's going to happen is we're going to have a beautiful connection with the elemental energies of the earth. By elementals, I mean all aspects of the earth, where we're talking about fairies, pixies, elves, gnomes, but we're also talking about plants and animals and trees and birds. And we're going to come into this beautiful harmonic dance with each other. And you'll see opposite the 51 on that diagram, you can see in yellow the 2. And the 2 is unity consciousness. It is the feminine principle. So this beginning of the shift of the ages comes through the 51 into the 2, which is, as you said earlier, bringing us into unity consciousness. So that is the ultimate goal of this age, is to bring us into unity consciousness, but we have to do our inner work first.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been a bit of a mouthful.
Shall
I
I?
hope people have been able to stay with that, because it's really important. And if not, just know that the old age is over and the new one is, we're now embedded in it. And
Yeah.
so following the synchronicities becomes the most important thing for us to do.
Shall I stop sharing the screen now?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. It was funny when you were saying about the serpent turning into the eagle. I've been doing a number of shamanic healings recently, and normally when I'm in bird form in the shamanic practice, I'm a crow. And recently I've been an eagle, and
Ah,
it's kind of been like, huh, okay, I've changed shape. I'm an eagle.
well, the crow is in that 28th gene key. So the crow is the transformation from the shadow into the eagle. So the crow into the eagle is exactly spot on for you. Great.
Perfect. I mean, that was a lot. That was a lot of information for people to absorb, especially if they're only kind of in the early stages of an awareness of what's going on. But fear not, the replay is there for you to dive deeper into and just, listen, just be easy with yourself. That was something that the great Sequoia told me whilst I was in the New Forest for the eclipse. Go easy, be easy with yourself. Everything's okay. You don't have to get everything now in this moment. Just allow yourself to process what you're ready to process. And, the information, the wisdom, it will come to you in perfect timing for you. And again, these replays are here for you to dive back into whenever. It could be in a week's time, a month's time, a year's time, doesn't matter. There's no judgment on how ready you are to receive this information and how ready you are to shift and release your shadows and do the inner work. So go easy with yourself, love yourself through this process. I think that's one of the key things, because judgment is something that we've all had placed upon us, and we see so much in the world, and it's the one thing that makes this journey inside so much easier when we connect in with the heart field where there is no judgment, because it's a much higher dimensional space than the physical reality that we exist within. So, connecting in with your heart, everything that Peter said fits beautifully with my talk on Monday, Nora's talk yesterday, and, and also with Susan's talk at the end of the week, coming into the heart and, connecting in with your light, receiving the guidance.
So
Wow.
Richard has actually also say we have to drop into the solar plexus as well as the heart. And the
Yeah.
biggest challenge we have is getting underneath the mind, because the mind doesn't want to lose control of us, and it has to. So this is also part of this journey now, is it, as you correctly say, is dropping into the heart, but even dropping even deeper into the belly, into the
Mm,
solar plexus. There's a brain in the solar plexus as well. So
yes.
that gut instinct, that gut intuition, really important to allow that to lead the way and put the mind in its place, which is still to be useful, but not to
Mm.
be in charge.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something that Spirit's been doing with clients recently as well is bringing a strand of energy from the heart, bringing a strand from the solar plexus, kind of weaving them together and connecting it to the outside of the energy field on people's light bodies, which also kind of ties in with that as well. It's kind of joining the two, the kind of the higher mind in all aspects of us, brain mind, heart mind, and gut mind. I'm
And
just looking through a few questions.
yeah, sure.
There's quite a lot. Do, 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 do. Um, Somebody says they think they have the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Life work 34, evolution 20, purpose
They
55,
do. They
radiance
do. Yeah.
59.
So what this means is that that person is an archetype of this new energy. And again, like you've just said, don't see that as a pressure.
Mm,
Don't see it as something you've got to achieve. Just be you and allow it to unfold naturally. But people having that cross are the archetypes of those people who need to set themselves free from their old earth and world into the new.
mm.
one thing, just to add to what you were saying, Lou, one of the good things you can do if you want an image of that heart center and the solar plexus is a gold frequency. Working with the gold frequency, we are moving into the golden age. So it's not metallic gold, it's a liquid crystalline golden light that we are now working with. So if people want to work with an image, that's a really good one to have. And one of the image I forgot to mention, which I thought was really neat, the Sabian symbol for this date on Saturday, this image I thought was the most perfect image for the future. And it was the white dove over troubled waters. And I thought, wow, that's the image we should hold for this time. Because the dove of peace comes as a sign and symbol that we are stepping into the new earth. It's always, you know, if you think about Noah's Ark, the first sign of life was the dove coming.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the troubled waters are obviously what we are in on the planet right now. So we want to fly above them and hold to that highest frequency that we can.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, it's how we perceive things. So allowing yourself to come into that detachment, you know, this is all for the greatest and highest good. Everything is happening within our own internal landscape and also within the global reality that we all exist within. Is, you know, for us to get into the newer frequencies and for those to be realized within the physical, the old rigid structures have to fall away. And that's not going to be easy because we've been so attached to them and identified with them for such a long time. But if we fall into that space, that higher space within ourselves, within the heart, within the solar plexus, then we kind of let go of that attachment. And, you know, our perception of what is happening outside changes and shifts. And I can say that from personal experience on this journey, being in that space. You end up navigating the global energies, the local energies around you, from a much greater space of peace, and just allowance for, you know, it is what it is, and this too shall pass. But knowing we are heading into beautiful, beautiful times, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. So I just saw Joy just asked a question about the 62.6 in her attraction sphere. Can I answer that?
You can, yeah.
So the line 6, Joy, in the attraction sphere, the line 6 is the bigger vision. So it means that almost certainly you have a bit of a romantic ideal as to what your romantic life, your personal relationship field should be. And that can lead to disappointment if other people can't live up to those expectations. It's a really tricky one because you want to have high expectations, but they also have to be reachable by other people. And the 62 is the programming partner of the 61, who I mentioned earlier. And the 62 is the desire to understand everything. And this is where you've got to let go of that and allow it to unfold naturally and easily, because the mind cannot solve life. It is a mystery, and it's supposed to be a mystery. So we have to allow it to be a mystery. So we surrender to the need to know and embrace the joy and fun and playfulness of the mystery itself in your relationship field with the people around you.
Yeah. Claudia's put that Robert Comer has been given the so-called secret 8 keys missing in the I Ching. So now there's 72. Have you heard of them, and how does this change the gene keys?
What an interesting question. So this was an interview that I saw that Pam Gregory did with him recently. And what I don't know the answer to the question, but what I did feel in watching him was he was of the Aquarian age. He felt to me he was one of the new ones coming in to expand upon what we already know. So the fact that he brought in, he called it the lost octave, another 8 keys to take the 64 to 72. To me, that was like the Jupiter expanding the old energies into the new.
Yeah.
And what he talked about was very profound. I haven't followed up with it because I've only just seen it. And I don't know the answer to it, but I do feel that there's an expansion of the I Ching even happening. There's an expansion of the gene keys happening.
Well, absolutely. And I find this all the time. I mean, because I'm a channel, it's like all of the modalities that we have grown used to, astrology included, they were for the time that they were channeled through. That wisdom
Exactly.
was for then, and it was there to bring us to this place. But we're now in a space where we are in a higher octave. So we're going to be bringing down even higher resonant frequency information than was possible to be brought through. So we're going to see all kinds of changes. We're going to find ourselves possibly training in a modality and then receiving information and guidance in a client session that kind of deviates from that and kind of going, oh, what shall I do? And my answer to that is go with what you're being guided to do, because the old modalities will all be evolving. Everything's going to be evolving. So it's not about kind of holding on to something hard and fast, because as you do one thing, you do all things.
So that's a really important point, because again, a lot of people feel attached to their modality, and
Yeah.
some of the leaders of those modalities tell you you've got to be attached to that modality, and that's no longer true.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. We've got to expand the old modalities and take from them what is helpful and useful, but follow our own intuition, our own gut instinct of the way we're going to be doing it. It's a really important element of this expansion that's taking place. Because as you correctly said, those modalities were for that time.
Mm.
And a good example is Pam Gregory, actually, who's a wonderful astrologer, but she's expanding and she's talking about way more things than what was her standard astrology now, which is great, because this
Absolutely.
is what it's about. It's about expanding into these other areas where you're being called to do so.
Yeah, and a prime example of that is the talk for tomorrow, which is all about the stellar nations, which is looking at the fixed stars that were in alignment with your natal chart. So not just the planets, it's
Yeah,
looking at the fixed stars. So again, that's astrology kind of expanding into a new space with all the Kazimis and everything. That's expanding into a new
yeah,
space. So everything's constantly moving, everything's in flow. And that includes within ourselves, that includes outside of ourselves. And it's allowing ourselves to connect in with flow and not holding onto anything, not being that rigid structure that we see being dismantled around us, allowing ourselves to become more liquid light.
exactly.
As Nora would say, crystalline grid. It's
Yeah,
allowing yourself to be more flexible, connecting into the higher aspects of who we all are. I'm just looking, there's somebody's asked, where can they find the podcast with Rory Duff? You mentioned you did a podcast recently with
yeah.
Rory.
We have a YouTube called From Shambles to Shambhala, and it's there. So if you go to YouTube From Shambles to Shambhala, then you'll find that podcast. There's a beautiful image of Zia, Rory, and me with a Grail cup, and that's where you'll find it. And someone asked the question about Pam Gregory's interview with that guy, and I don't know his name. I know it's Robert. But if someone could just post that in the chat, that would be helpful.
Robert Comer, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So Penny is asking, from a point of view of the gene keys, how important is it to know the exact time of birth?
That's a very good question. It's really helpful. It's not essential. So if we don't know the birth time, if we can narrow it down to a certain time of day, like it was light, it was dark, or lunchtime, or supper time, or whatever, that's helpful. If we don't have any clue at all, what I do is I put in noon on that day, and then I look very early in the day, 1:11 a.m. often, and 11:11 p.m., and then look at the changes that take place. And sometimes from the changes, we can actually work out what is the right time for that person according to that particular energy. But it's still useful. But what the most unfortunate thing is that if you don't know the exact time or similar time, the most important gene key that you don't know much about is the attraction sphere, which is what most people want to know about, because that's to do with the moon, and it can go through 3 gene keys in one day. So it means we know least about the attraction sphere with other people.
Mm.
I've just seen a couple of questions come up about the 55th gene key.
I was going to say, yeah.
So Heather was asking about the 55.5 in the pearl.
Yeah.
So the pearl is the final contentment in life.
Mm.
So once we go around the journey, this is the last step. And when you look at this, you've done all the inner work with all the shadow work, and now this brings you into how you're going to find contentment in your life. Now, the line 5 is the person who is the natural leader. So the risk for a person with the line 5 pearl is that once they get to this place of having established themselves in the world, that they will then take too much power for themselves. And we've seen this with a number of gifted spiritual people who have success and then lose their way.
Mm.
So we've got to remain in a space of humility and always operating in service for the greater good. And then we are fulfilling our divine destiny. And the 55, again, is the archetype of the new earth energy, setting ourselves free from victimhood into freedom, as I've already discussed. And then the other one was, I didn't see, was 55.3. And
Yeah.
where was, which sphere was that in?
Jenny, do you know what sphere 55.3 is in your chart? If you can have a look, because it's quite important to kind of identify what particular area the 55.3 is in. Whilst she may be coming back and letting us know that, freedom, yeah, but on your profile, where does it sit? Is it in radiance? Is it in life purpose, life's work? So Jules is asking how her life's work 14.3 and Pearl 6.5 fit in with the current energies moving forward.
So, sorry, I missed that. 14.3 in where?
14.3 in
Yeah,
life's work and
yeah.
6.5 in Pearl.
Okay. So I don't want to get too deeply into people's profiles, but very quickly, I'll just do these two, but I want to just stick to one if possible. So what's neat about the life's work 14.3 is your job is to be a changer, which means that as you go through the shifts of your own life in the line 3, which means that you came into this life to get a deep and profound understanding of the human condition. So now that you go through your own shift at this time, you're going to become an agent of change for others. And the 14th gene key is the shadow of compromise. And it means that in your life, you've been expected to conform to a certain way of being, which then limits your outlook on who you really are. But really, the 14th gene key is about your incredible competence. And that includes your efficiency, creativity, flexibility, and enthusiasm. And when you step into those 4 qualities, the 14th gene key includes what's called the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold. So when I talked earlier about the gold frequency, that's really relevant to you. And the 6.5 in your pearl, the 6th gene key is all about conflict between the sexes. And the city is peace. So again, really important to make sure you've resolved all conflict in relationship. And the way it usually works is the programming partner is the 36, which is about anxiety and nervousness. And the 6 tends to respond defensively towards that anxiety. So we go down the rabbit hole of the battle of the sexes and conflict. So your job is to be that white dove flying over troubled waters.
Yeah, beautiful. Jenny has come back and said it's 55.3 in attraction.
Okay, so in attraction sphere, line 3, what she really wants to have is a great deal of playful fun in her relationships. But because it's line 3, it's the emotional center. So it tends to lead to lots of upheaval and ups and downs and roller coaster rides of emotional interactions in the relationship field. And so then she's got to be really careful of becoming the victim in those relationships and what will set her free in her future relationships. That's the key.
Carson has put an interesting question. What gene key would you recommend reading at this time, or is that dependent on our profile?
That's a very good question. It is dependent upon your profiles to a certain degree, but if you were just wanting to look at it generally, there's no doubt at all that the most important gene key is the 55. It's a very long chapter, so it's to be done in small sections. But it is the only place in Richard's book where he does any prophesizing about the future. And so at the end of that chapter, there's several sections where he talks about sacred union couples coming together. And I've already had a few sessions where that's already happened. The twin flame concept, the way of doing business differently in the future, the whole thing about education and the way in which we need to handle our kids in the future, because they're coming in with a different set of DNA in their codes. So they don't respond in the way that we did as children. They're very different.
Yeah.
And this is going to be particularly true for the children born after 2027. They are the new humans. So they are coming in already in Homo luminous, but we are transforming from Homo sapiens to Homo luminous. So we are doing this so they don't have to, because we're going through the change, which can be painful. Sometimes they call them ascension symptoms, because our DNA is actually activating us into a different being. So we sometimes have to go through some painful inner changes as our organs and our systems change internally.
Absolutely. There's so many people that have got 55 and 59 in their profile. It's crazy.
Not a surprise, is it? Not a surprise.
No, I mean, some says 55.2 in purpose. And there's somebody else who's got both 55 and 59 in their profile. Yeah, and another one, 55.5 in culture and pearl. I think, again, if you're on this call and you're receiving this transmission, it's for you. So I would suggest you go and listen back to what Peter was sharing within the pictures of was it in the Sleeping Phoenix that the 55 show?
Yes, that's right.
To kind of get a flavor of it. If you haven't got the book, then go and listen in. Although I think there is, if you go on the Gene Keys website, do they not have the individual Gene Keys available to kind of read?
Yes, yeah. There's a whole series of audio files, but you can actually do it in a different way. There's a newsletter called The Pulse. And when a new gene key gets illuminated by the sun, then Richard actually sends out the free audio transmission for that 5-day period. So right now we're in the third gene key, and it's right there. And I've just listened to it. It's superb. And we are as Lottie is saying, we're in innocence right now, the third gene key. But the point about what's happening in this interview today is all those people with the 55 are here for that reason, to know that they are the entry point to the age of Aquarius. It's phenomenal, isn't it? Yeah. And that's how it's working. You see, it's synchronistic. We don't have to do anything. It's just happening. And as you said earlier, there's no more trying. There's no more trying to make things happen. Yeah. It's just allowing it to unfold with ease and grace through synchronicity. It's easy. And that's what we have to do.
Yeah. And allowing yourself to be easy with yourself and seeing it, if any of you have 55 in your Gene Key profile, just feeling blessed that, you chose to be here. Nothing is a mistake. There are no mistakes. And we were talking before we came on the call about free will and destiny. And I was just sharing that Spirit had shown me that, yes, we have free will, but it's not either or. They work co-creatively, because Spirit showed that, we have free will. And personally, on my journey, we have these destination points. And if we are so veered off our natural path that it would take a miracle to get us into that particular point that we need to be in a particular time, then Spirit's going to take action, and for me, it was falling down the stairs and becoming paralyzed. Quite a major deal, but sometimes it takes that to kind of really shift us out of our kind of ostrich moment where we've got our head in the sand, and I certainly did in that point in my life. But destiny and free will, they're working together. So the biggest thing is relax, relax into it and just rejoice that actually you really are here for this time. If you've got, 55 in your chart at all.
So I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Lottie mentioned that she's got the 22.3 in her life's work, and the 22 is the other most important gene key. So I thought I'd better touch on that, because this is all about human suffering. So it's the other side of the 55. It's the 22 is going deep down within to release all of the shadow frequencies. And the 22.3 is, experiencing life and all aspects of it. So that's if you're going to read two gene keys, that would be the other one. But it's the longest chapter in the book.
It is. I've got that in mind.
Yeah. Well, it's got its own transmission. It's that important, called the Seven Sacred Seals, right? And the other thing I wanted to mention was someone mentioned that they were having tears. That's really important. And it's happening to me all the time now. When your soul gets touched by something that we say, the tears flow.
Yeah.
And it's because your soul is saying to you, finally, we've made contact. Here we are. Let's do it.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful. So enjoy those tears when they come. Enjoy whatever insights come up. Because again, these are energetic transmissions. And, it doesn't matter if we've not been able to answer your personal gene key profile question. You've received the overall transmission, and we're all collectively joined, and we're all going through the Phoenix and the planning circles and combinations of gene key numbers, regardless whether they're in our profile or not. So allow yourself to fully receive this transmission, and allow it to do the work that it's going to do within your field, because we are shifting, we are changing, we are evolving in this now moment, and just by being here and receiving this, or receiving it on the replay.
So I'm just going to I've got to throw this quick one in, because this is again how it works. It's so neat that I didn't see the person's name, but she said that she'd had an addiction to food all her life. The 24 is the addiction gene key, and the 35 is the gene key to do with food. So that could be resolved through those two gene keys on her behalf. That can be explained, because people with the 35 have a relatively low level of serotonin. So they use food to try to satiate themselves, but it doesn't work. And that's why you need to go on an inner journey to resolve that. And then the 24th then will no longer be playing a role in your life. So that's the beauty of having the session with me, in all humility, because I can see the interconnected connections between different gene keys that will give you greater insight and support on your healing journey.
And somebody put very, very early on in the comments that they'd had a personal session with Peter a few years ago, and Peter asked, what happened to you when you were 4? And they didn't even know, but the question stayed with them, and earlier this year they discovered and cleared what happened. So again, you may have, it's kind of like a key in a door. And that key may unlock the door, but you may not be able to pass through the door in that moment. It may be that, you have to go through certain experiences and have certain aha moments to kind of enable you to fully step through that door to resolve whatever issue. So, there is no magic wand for anything. Sometimes we have to go through a journey. And I certainly know in my life, I've had to go through quite long journeys to then get to the end. It could be a momentary aha, boom, it's done. It could take months, it could take years. But what I do know is everything is accelerating. This ability to connect in, to transmute, transform is accelerating, and nothing is taking as long as it used to take. And again, because the energy is changing, we can visibly see it with the white sun now. So again, if you've had a session and nothing immediately kind of shifted, okay, but it just means that session was the key in the door that is enabling you to unlock onto that journey and to move through that journey in your own pace. Everything happens in perfect timing.
Lou, you totally get it. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by you. You are a wise elder already. You're not old enough.
Oh, one thing that I realized actually quite recently, I was born in the 60s. I was born for this time.
Yeah,
I have been twiddling my thumbs waiting to get to my wise woman phase.
yeah. Well, you've
Um,
arrived. You've definitely arrived.
but hey, and again, many of you may feel the same. It's like, you were kind of treading water until you kind of landed in this space and time, and maybe it was the global energetics were there finally to support you at the vibration that you came in with, because they certainly weren't able to support me when I came in. But hey, rejoice in it. Nothing's been wasted, and there's no mistakes.
Absolutely.
60s babies, yeah, 60s babies here too. Absolutely. Um, wow, okay. Almost sleepless these days. Could that have to do with all these shifts?
Of
Probably.
course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Although saying that, it can have the other effect, because on the lunar eclipse, it was literally as if somebody had switched me off. I was having lunch with my ex-partner, and all of a sudden I completely zoned out. And he was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I have to go." And I went home and I slept for 3 hours
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else that you want to share, Peter, before we wrap this call up? Because I'm just aware of the time and
Yeah. Well, it's 11:11 my time. Perfect time to wrap it up. I just think it's really important for people to relax and know this is all divinely guided. The planets and the stars are assisting us, and now the elementals are coming back as well. So just enjoy the ride and just allow it to flow naturally and easily, and just let things go that aren't meeting your needs. And
Mm,
be a little bit selfish about it, because that's this time of individuation, as you correctly said.
mm,
So yeah, just relax and enjoy it, and enjoy the summer weather coming in the northern hemisphere.
absolutely. And as the Sequoias said, be easy with yourself. Everything's okay.
Yep.
So just to recap on the special offer, somebody's asking, is it 111 discount session in Canadian dollars? No, it's American dollars. But it is well worth. I know there is a difference between the Canadian dollars and the American dollars, but I can't praise not just Peter's wisdom and memory for the gene keys, which if you have tried to read number 22 and 55, you will see what I mean. For somebody to be able to hold that amount of information. I mean, the Gene Keys book is a tome in itself, but Peter is someone who not only holds all that information in his head like that to be able to recall it, but he's able to connect in with you on an intuitive level as well, and to kind of connect into your Gene Keys profile and really bring through, he's very grounding. He brings through really high vibrational esoteric wisdom to a level that lands where you are. So it doesn't matter whether you have had a session before and you're kind of wanting a bit of a top up, but you have awareness, or if you're brand new, he will meet you where you are. And in that session, it will land within you. And of course, you get the recording for yourself to be able to go back. So I highly, highly recommend considering having a session with Peter if you are interested and you want to know more about the whole of your profile or just a section. It's well worth the money. And as I say, he's generously offering it as a discounted price.
So I've got a session with a 2-year-old in an hour's time,
Wow.
because again, parents want to know how they can best raise their child, what they should be aware of. And it goes from age, I've had one actually, a younger child, just born child, right through to people in their mid 80s.
Mm,
So there's no limitation on anybody at any age. It's just a beautiful aspect of this.
Absolutely. I must admit, I have done my grandchildren's.
Exactly. Of course. Yeah, of course. Why
I,
wouldn't you?
I said
Yeah.
to them, I said to my son, make sure you get the time of birth. Although it's not essential, but it does help.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So Penny's saying, thank you for this. Mind boggled a bit, but great info. Been feeling under pressure, attacked by the world. So hopefully this will help. Allow the transmission to sink in, Penny. You know, it can be challenging traversing these waters and these energy flows that we're moving through, but just knowing that everything is meant to dismantle allows you to detach from the dismantling process. And going inside you, connecting in with your truth and your inner guidance system, in not being steered by, as Nora said, the ship of fools out there, connecting in and being your own master. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining us again. It's always a joy to connect in with you. I feel like we're family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we're both glowing. So we know there's been a major energetic transmission taking place for us and for the people on the call and on the recording as well. So this is timeless, just happens and stays with us. Yeah, beautiful.
Absolutely.
My pleasure. And Lou, you're a great host. I really appreciate the way you do it. It's very comfortable and very relaxing. So thank you.
No, thank you. It's I couldn't do it any other way, I don't think, but yeah, thank you. Right, tomorrow, guys, we have another live call. I hope you can all join me for that. It's beautiful Leslie Shankman, a brand new speaker to the summit. I'm really excited to bring forth the wisdom that she's sharing, which is the stellar nations, a brand new look at astrology, looking at your fixed stars and our galactic histories and the histories of our galactic wounds that we've brought through into this lifetime. And the thing that I love most is we're in the year of dragons and the great felines. And as Peter was talking, something was popping in my head about that as well, but I can't remember what it was now. But anyway, everything in perfect timing and in synchronicity. So I do hope you can join me for that call, but don't worry. If I can't live stream it, it will be available in a replay, as is this conversation, soon after the live has ended. And it doesn't matter when you connect in, you always connect in with wisdom at the perfect time for you. So blessings to you all. So much love. Enjoy the rest of your day. Allow this amazing energy transmission to land with you. And I shall see you all again tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Many blessings, everyone. Much love.
As always, Peter, when I stop the webinar, it shuts it off for everyone. So go well with your journey and bring
Yeah.
forth more and more amazing wisdom.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
See you. Bye.